And really today I wanted to give you 3 examples of high agency and to really ask the question, is this just another buzzword from San Francisco, or is this going to be the super skill of the next 10 years? Because as many sessions we'll discuss across South by Southwest London, the way that we're working is changing dramatically. AI is taking all of the hard skills, the technical ability that we need to do our jobs, and soft skills are going to be the most important thing in the next 10 years. So high agency, what is it? An amazing marketer called George Mack has given the best definition possible, and the way he gave the definition was through this meme. High agency is someone who doesn't accept the world as it is, but they remake it in the way they want it to be. They don't let life happen to them, they happen to life. And every single one of us, as I'm going through this presentation, will know someone like this, who just goes out and makes things happen. If someone says no, they don't take that as a dead end, they see it as a challenge. Paul Graham, the infamous founder of Y Combinator, the accelerator in the US that pumped out startups like Dropbox, like Stripe, like Coinbase, like Airbnb, has said that he looks for one trait in founders more than any, and that is high agency. And he says when things go wrong, high agency people do not freeze or make excuses, they find a way. And that leads me nicely on to my first example of high agency, and that is the founders of Airbnb. So interestingly, Airbnb launched at South by Southwest Austin in 2008. Pretty good idea. You had thousands of people flying in, all needing accommodation, a pretty closed market, lots of customers. They launched, they got 2 bookings, one of which was one of the founders, Brian Chesky. A complete flop. Airbnb they thought was going to be a big business. They got 2 bookings. However, they had run out of money. The company was about to go bust. But instead of just accepting defeat, the Airbnb founders thought, let's try and raise some money through a creative way. It was an election year in the US. They left South by Southwest with no bookings, and they designed cereal boxes, one for each candidate in the presidential campaign. They sold these collector's items for $40, raised $30,000 in 2 weeks, kept the company alive. It was this reason and this reason alone that they were accepted into Y Combinator, and now they are the most successful company ever to come out of YC. They didn't accept defeat, they pivoted, they were creative, and they found a way. The second is probably the greatest feats of human endurance and high agency of all time. 1914, the Shackleton mission to traverse Antarctica. His boat Endurance got stuck in the ice, 27 men essentially periled, and instead of just accepting their death, they went on what is widely regarded as the biggest survival mission of all time. They went from trying to explore to pure survival. And over a space of 497 days, Shackleton showed his leadership and his agency by dragging lifeboats across glaciers, sailing 100 miles through the worst storms on the globe, landing on an island, no one there, then went 8,000 miles to another island, got rescued, went back and picked up his men 500 days later. One of the single greatest kind of established ways of high agency. And the third example, the infamous entrepreneur Richard Branson. Now, not many people know this, but when Richard Branson was 21 years old, he saw an ad in a newspaper for a tiny little shrubby island in the British Virgin Islands for $6 million. He called up the real estate agent, pretended to be a successful businessman, he had no money in the bank, and said, I'm interested in buying this island. Why did he do this? To impress a girl that he was dating. He got flown out on a private jet by the realtor, shown the island with this new girlfriend, and kind of said at the end, I'll make you an offer of $100,000. Complete waste of time, no intention of buying it. But that wasn't the high agency move. 6 months later, after this realtor basically laughed at Richard Branson for his lowball offer, he came back to Branson and said, listen, we're struggling to sell this island. You can have it for $2 million. Branson said, no way, I'll give you $180,000, and they made a deal. Not only did he impress the girl, he also got an island worth $6 million for $180,000, and that became Necker Island, where he now lives. Again, rewriting the rules, thinking on his feet, being creative and doing things that normal people just wouldn't have the balls to do. And the amazing thing about agency is that like any soft skill, it can be learned, it can be developed. The mind genuinely is like a muscle. If you want to grow in resilience in agency, just like going to the gym, you have to push yourself, you have to go through reps, you have to lift the mental weights. But I heard this on a podcast recently which was talking about it, and an amazingly poignant exercise to go through to develop agency in yourself is the next time you find yourself with a problem, a challenge at work or at home, you're maybe stuck launching a product or a client is being difficult, just sit there and ask the question, what would I do if I had 10x the agency? And that simple question acts as a bit of a spark to start thinking differently. Rather than sending another email, you send a handwritten letter. Rather than accepting the no for a huge project, you send a bottle of champagne and ask why. Different ways of approaching a problem, and you build that muscle. And it's such a powerful thing that when you're hiring people or learning about your new team, try and find people with that high agency that do things differently without asking for permission.